Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Last Week Beyond Earth. I'm your host, David, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Zach. Zach, can you give us a hint as to what we'll be covering this week?
Yeah, so last week we saw the launch of Europe's planetary defense mission, Hera. We also had an announcement from Rocket Lab that they're looking into the Mars sample return mission. And finally, we had a Spanish company reveal the first private crewed space capsule. That's some of what we'll be getting into this episode.
That sounds awesome. Let's dive in.
The European mission to the asteroid Dimorphos was successfully launched on October 7th. The spacecraft, called Hera, was launched atop a SpaceX Falcon 9. The rocket launched from Space Launch Complex 40, located at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida at 10:52 a.m. Eastern Time. The launch was given approval by the Federal Aviation Administration, despite the Falcon 9 currently being grounded, pending an investigation after an anomaly during the second stage of the Crew 9 launch. Luckily, no anomalies cropped up during this launch, and Hera was successfully sent along on its mission. And what is Hera's mission? The spacecraft is being sent to investigate the impact DART made on the asteroid Dimorphos. DART was a planetary defense mission that tested to see if we could divert the path of an asteroid by smashing a spacecraft into it. Hera, alongside a couple of CubeSats catching a ride to the asteroid, will collect data on Dimorphos to determine as much as they can about the impact and the deflection. Planetary defense missions such as DART and Hera are important. There are thousands of known asteroids that orbit the Sun within the Earth's orbital path. There are undoubtedly countless others that we have not yet detected. Being able to deflect asteroids that get too close to Earth will be important to ensure we avoid a large-scale disaster.
NASA has selected rocket manufacturer Rocket Labs to conduct a study on retrieving rock samples and returning them from Mars to Earth. The company is a recent selection for NASA's Rapid Mission Design System for Mars Sample Return. The program is looking for commercial solutions for the Mars Sample Return program. Rocket Lab's study will look into an end-to-end mission that is simpler and cheaper than the current projected costs. Additionally, Rocket Lab thinks that their solution could be completed sooner than currently expected, allowing Martian samples to return to scientists more quickly. The Mars Sample Return program is looking to return Martian samples that have already been collected by NASA's Perseverance rover. The rover has deposited these samples on the surface where they are ready to be picked up by a follow-on mission. Several other companies were also selected to lead similar projects back in June. Some of the others conducting their own studies are Lockheed Martin, SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Northrop Grumman.
Spanish rocket maker PLD Space unveiled the Lince crew-rated capsule. This will be the first European crewed capsule developed by a private company. The capsule, with a capacity of 8 cubic meters or 282 cubic feet, will allow Europe to launch their own astronauts into orbit without the need to buy seats aboard American or Russian capsules. PLD is looking to begin testing on Lince in 2025. They plan to do the first uncrewed test flight in 2028, and finally the first crewed flight by 2030.
NASA is looking for proposals from U.S. industry on suggestions for how to land and move large amounts of cargo on the lunar surface. The space agency recently published 2 white papers that outline gaps in lunar logistics and mobility that need to be addressed. NASA is envisioning a future in which thousands of pounds of cargo need to be brought to the surface and then moved to the various locations where they may be needed. While current uncrewed landers and in development human-rated landers are able to meet immediate needs, the Artemis program anticipates that these will no longer be able to meet the needs in the future. Likewise, while the in-development lunar terrain vehicle and pressurized rover will be able to move astronauts and some cargo about the lunar surface, NASA sees that there will be a need for transports capable of carrying thousands of pounds of cargo at once. It is gaps such as these that NASA is hoping U.S. industry will address.
The Dominican Republic has become the 44th nation to sign the Artemis Accords. The Accords are a set of principles for the safe, responsible exploration of the Moon, Mars, and beyond. Japanese rocket maker Interstellar Technologies has announced the opening of a new manufacturing and office facility. The building will be able to make components for their first rocket called Zero, and will also provide office space for up to 50 employees. The Capstone mission in orbit around the Moon and operated by Advanced Space is getting a mission extension. Capstone was sent to test and verify the orbit that will be used by the Gateway space station. The spacecraft has been operating at the Moon since November of 2022.
Lone Star Data Holdings, a company looking to provide data storage on the surface of the Moon, has entered into an agreement with Cadus Cloud Solutions. Cadus specializes in data center development, cloud capacity sourcing, and end-user deployment. NASA's Europa Clipper saw its October 10th launch date pushed back due to the approach of Hurricane Milton. Thankfully, the spacecraft was able to avoid any damage. The members of Crew 8 offered their farewell remarks as they prepared for the end of their mission. NASA astronauts Matthew Dominic, Michael Barrett, and Jeanette Epps, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Grobenkin are ending their 6-month tour aboard the ISS with a return date no earlier than the 13th. That's another week of space news all finished up. Zach, what did you find interesting this week?
Well, let's see. The Hera launch for me, I watched the DART impact when it happened live, so having this follow-on mission to see, the details of what happened will be interesting. Glad that it was able to launch before Milton hit the area. That's probably why the approval came through, to just get it out of the way. And then I also found the reveal of that European crew capsule to be quite interesting, something I wasn't expecting. So seeing that pop up was good, and having Europe have that capability of getting their own astronauts into space, I'm happy to see it. Hopefully,
it's a big step.
Yeah, hopefully it'll become a reality, and they can not have to rely on America or Russia to get into space. And I also just think the more going to space, the merrier, So for me, that's what I found interesting. What about you? What stories caught your eye?
Well, yeah, you just mentioned the more the merrier, and we had the Dominican Republic join the Accords, which is fantastic. Always like to hear another country joining the ranks, so to speak. And you also mentioned about Hurricane Milton, and hearing that they had to push back the Europa Clipper was unfortunate, but I am so glad to hear that there wasn't any damage to it. I think the most interesting thing to me was maybe the announcement of Rocket Lab and their work with the Rapid Deployment Mission. That's not the right word for it.
The Mars Sample Return.
Yeah, Mars Sample Rapid Mission Design. Mars Sample Return. That is a mouthful, but hearing, I guess, about their plans for it and how the other companies are all going to have their own designs, their own studies, that's really exciting and interesting to me, and I can't wait to find out more about it. But that's all from us. If you have anything that you thought was particularly interesting this week, please leave us a comment down below.
All right. That's another episode done and dusted. We hope to see you next week for more Beyond Earth news.
Thanks for watching.